ever made a small decision in a hurry, one you thought wouldn't matter, only to find out later it destroyed someone else's world? What if you borrowed a friend's car, sped up to save a few minutes, and ended up rewriting your entire future in blood and regret? This is not fiction. This is a real tragedy that started with a borrowed Ford Mustang, a rush to a festival, and a mother who just needed cooking oil for dinner. It was a quiet evening in Adelaide, Australia. The streets were calm, the night air still. Pupinder Singh, a 22-year-old international student, was driving a friend's Mustang. He wasn't late for work. No one was chasing him. But something about the night pushed him. Perhaps adrenaline, ego, or just carelessness. On a road limited to 60 kilometers per hour, he clocked in at 160. A lethal decision born out of impatience. Meanwhile, just a few kilometers away, a 40-year-old mother named Christine Sandford was finishing dinner prep. She noticed she'd run out of cooking oil. Not wanting to disrupt the family's routine, she quickly told her kids she'd be back in 10 minutes. Just a short drive to the nearby service station. She didn't know she had just minutes left to live. Christine reached the station, bought the oil, and began the drive back. It was just past 10 p.m. when she entered the main road, calmly, carefully. But from the shadows came Pupinder's Mustang, racing like a bullet. It struck Christine's Holden wagon with such force it didn't look like a car crash. It looked like demolition. Witnesses said they'd never seen anything like it. The Mustang slammed her car and threw it into chaos. Christine didn't stand a chance. Before anyone could even dial emergency services, she was gone. Her children, waiting at home for dinner, would never see her again. The family dinner became a death vigil, and Pupinder? He didn't flee, but his story was about to unravel in courtrooms and headlines for years to come. When police arrived, Pupinder claimed he hadn't been speeding. He denied everything. But seasoned investigators weren't fooled. The wreckage didn't match a 60-kilometer-per-hour impact. It was far more violent. Multiple bystanders backed the same story. Pupinder had been weaving between cars, flashing headlights, driving like he owned the road. The CCTV cameras confirmed it. Pupinder had been caught speeding multiple times along that same route that night. One camera even captured the collision itself. It was undeniable. His car was traveling at a deadly speed. On May 31, 2023, Pupinder was formally charged with dangerous driving causing death, and the law wasn't going to be kind. Christine's family was devastated. Her death wasn't just sudden. It was brutal, senseless, and could have been avoided. Yet Pupinder refused to admit guilt. He maintained his innocence, triggering a 2-year-long legal nightmare for Christine's grieving loved ones. They had to relive her death in excruciating detail again and again during the legal proceedings. But the turning point came when police dug deeper. Modern vehicles have what's called an event data recorder, like a black box in airplanes. It tracks speed, braking, and more. And what they found? Pupinder's Mustang was clocked at 107 kilometers per hour just seconds before impact, not even close to legal. The evidence was overwhelming, but Pupinder still wouldn't plead guilty. Did he think he could beat the system? Did he truly not understand the consequences of his recklessness? Or was he just scared? Too ashamed to admit that his moment of thrill had destroyed lives. But this was only the beginning. The real story wasn't just about one fatal crash. It was about courtroom drama, religious arguments, public backlash, and a young man's desperate plea for mercy. As the trial unfolded, shocking revelations would expose more than just a speeding ticket. What happened in court next will make you question how justice is truly served. What happens when the truth becomes undeniable, but the guilty still refuses to speak it? In the courtroom, silence is not innocence, and the deeper you hide, the louder the truth screams. Pupinder Singh thought he could escape judgment with silence, but the weight of evidence was crushing. And now, with the world watching, the trial was about to tear apart not just the facts, but his identity, his beliefs, and his future. After 2 years of delay, the pre-trial hearing began. Pupinder still clung to his not guilty plea, but by now forensic investigators had recovered everything. The black box data, CCTV footage, eyewitness testimonies. His Mustang hadn't just touched 160 kilometers per hour once. It had been speeding repeatedly before the crash, and just 22 seconds before the impact, it hit 107 kilometers per hour. On a 60-zone suburban road, Christine's family sat in the courtroom, eyes full of pain, waiting for answers that Pupinder refused to give. Her children were forced to relive their mother's final moments in brutal detail. Every courtroom appearance opened fresh wounds, but the legal system demanded due process. The judge wanted the full story. No assumptions, only facts. It was during this process that shocking courtroom details surfaced. Prosecutors revealed that Pupinder, after crashing into Christine, didn't step out of the car to check on her. He didn't rush to help or call for emergency services. He just sat there. When questioned, his lawyer gave an unexpected defense. Pupinder hadn't exited the car because he had lost his turban. According to Sikh beliefs, the turban is sacred. His lawyer argued that Pupinder stayed inside the car out of shame, not indifference. He wasn't heartless, they claimed. He was humiliated. The prosecution didn't dispute this, but emphasized, sacred beliefs do not excuse moral responsibility. The court, however, wasn't here to debate religion. It was here to decide punishment. And when the prosecution laid out their evidence, they didn't hold back. One officer explained how Pupinder's reckless driving had been caught by multiple cameras across Adelaide that evening. Each clip, each witness, each data point, layered together like a noose of truth. The Mustang, the court learned, had flashed between lanes, blinding drivers, behaving more like a race car than a vehicle on a family road. Pupinder claimed he was just excited, rushing to attend Adelaide's Fringe Festival. But his thrill had cost a mother her life. And that wasn't just a tragedy. It was a crime. In a moment of quiet devastation, Christine's family was given a chance to speak. Her husband, children, and relatives addressed the court, sharing the heartbreak they now lived with every day. Empty chairs at dinner. A child crying in the middle of the night for a mother who would never return. The courtroom wept. But Pupinder remained silent. Then came a twist no one expected. Around April 2025, just weeks before the final hearing, Pupinder finally changed his plea. He admitted guilt. After 2 years of hiding behind silence and technicalities, he accepted responsibility. Some say it was because his lawyer warned him that the evidence was too strong. Others believe it was the weight of shame that finally broke him. But this didn't mean he would walk away lightly. The sentencing hearing still had to take place. And here, even more strange and human details surfaced. Pupinder's defense lawyer told the court how difficult prison life had been for him. As a turbaned Sikh and a vegetarian, he claimed he was mocked, lost weight, and suffered in jail. He had already spent 2 years inside while waiting for trial. But the judge made it clear, suffering in jail did not erase suffering caused outside. "You treated a suburban road like a racetrack," the judge said sternly. "And because of that, a woman who only wanted to make dinner lost her life." Still, the judge did take some factors into consideration. Pupinder was just 22 when the crash occurred. He hadn't been drunk, hadn't fled the scene, and hadn't intended to kill anyone. His age and eventual acceptance of guilt spared him the harshest punishment. On July 11, 2025, the final sentence was delivered. 5 years, 2 months, and 21 days in prison with a non-parole period of 4 years and 2 months. His driving license was revoked for 15 years. And the biggest mystery? Despite being an international student, the court did not confirm whether he would be deported after completing his sentence. But not everyone was satisfied. Many believed the sentence was too light. "She lost her life. He gets out in 5 years?" one online commenter said. Others compared the case to similar ones like that of Kunj Patel, an Uber driver who caused a death but was given home detention instead of prison time. So the question lingered. Was this justice? And yet, one haunting thought remains. What if Pupinder had never been caught on camera? What if no one had spoken up? How many such stories end without justice, buried in silence, lost in bureaucracy? The final part of this story doesn't just answer questions. It opens a door to something deeper, something many are afraid to ask. What if 5 years in prison could erase a life? What if a courtroom could heal grief with numbers? And what if at the end of it all, we're still left asking, was that enough? Pupinder Singh's trial had ended. The sentence had been declared, but the story was far from over. Because when the dust settles and the gavel falls, what remains is not justice. It's the echo of lives forever changed. Christine Sandford's death had become more than a tragic accident. It was now a symbol of a broken moment, of how one person's impatience could tear a hole through the life of an entire family. Her children would grow up without a mother, her husband without a partner. Pupinder, meanwhile, would serve just a few years in jail. To many, the scales of justice didn't balance. Not even close. In the final hearing, Judge Muscat delivered a powerful message. While he acknowledged the cultural and personal difficulties Pupinder faced in prison, he reminded the court that the sentence had to reflect the seriousness of the crime, not the comfort of the convict. "Your victim was a mother preparing dinner," he said. "You, on the other hand, turned a quiet street into a racetrack. Her death wasn't fate, it was your choice." Yet despite the harsh tone, the judge opted for a sentence that fell within the legal norms of such cases. In Australia, dangerous driving causing death typically leads to 3 to 5 years of imprisonment, unless the offender was intoxicated, fled the scene, or showed blatant disregard. Pupinder was sober. He didn't flee, and ultimately he pled guilty. The law had spoken, but public reaction was divided. On social media, people raged. 5 years? That's it? Some wrote, if the roles were reversed, a white woman killed by a brown man, would the sentence be the same? Others pointed out that a similar case involving Kunj Patel ended with home detention. No two stories are the same, but the comparison stirred controversy and deep emotion. There was also a legal blind spot left untouched: deportation. As an international student, Pupinder wasn't an Australian citizen, and according to immigration law, any non-citizen sentenced to over 12 months in prison is automatically eligible for deportation. Yet in court, no confirmation was given about whether that would happen after his release. Some speculated that his legal team was buying time, trying to delay the process, perhaps lobbying in private. Others believed authorities had already made up their minds behind closed doors. But the public never got an answer. And to this day, no one knows whether Pupinder Singh will be sent back to India after completing his sentence. Christine's family, on the other hand, had no ambiguity in their fate. They were left with photographs, memories, and an empty chair at the dinner table. No sentence, no courtroom apology, no jail time could fill that void. Her husband spoke to the media only once, saying, "It's not about revenge, it's about the hole that never heals." Meanwhile, Pupinder's lawyers pushed hard during sentencing to highlight his good behavior in jail, the religious challenges he faced, and the fact that he had already lost over 9 kilograms due to lack of vegetarian food. But critics weren't convinced. "He killed someone," one journalist wrote, "and now we're expected to feel bad because he lost weight." And yet the legal system is built not on vengeance, but on structure. And by that standard, Pupinder received a sentence that aligned with legal precedent. The judge rejected the plea for home detention, stating firmly that such a crime required real time behind bars, regardless of age or background. Still, one final question remained, one that no law book can answer. What if the roles had been reversed? What if Christine had been the one driving the Mustang and Pupinder the one who died? Would the headlines have been different? Would the courtroom have felt the same? Would the sentence have been shorter or longer? This question wasn't just whispered in private. It flooded comment sections, talk shows, and legal blogs. Some argued that race and immigration status influenced public opinion more than legal facts. Others believed the sentence was fair, pointing to cases around the world with even lighter penalties for vehicular manslaughter. And in the midst of it all, the deeper issue remained untouched. Should reckless driving that leads to death be treated the same as any other accidental crime? Or should the system evolve, get stricter, more punishing, more symbolic, especially in an age of fast cars and faster decisions? Now, as Pupinder counts days in a prison cell and Christine's children grow up without her warmth, this case leaves behind more than grief. It leaves behind a debate, a challenge, a question that will not go away. Is 5 years in prison really enough for a life lost? Or is our justice system still learning how to value human life against human error? Let us know in the comments. Should Pupinder Singh be deported after serving his sentence? Or does he deserve a second chance in the country where he made the worst mistake of his life?